The drill bit screamed as it hit something hard. Jake Morrison pulled back on the controls and wiped the sweat from his forehead. He had been drilling for oil in northern Alaska for 15 years, but he had never heard that sound before. Metal against metal 2 miles under the ice stopped the drill, Jake called to his team. The 5 men around him looked confused. They were supposed to find oil, not metal. Not here, not this deep. Boss, what's wrong? Asked Tommy, the youngest member of the crew. He was only 22, fresh out of technical school. Jake checked the readings again. The numbers made no sense. According to the instruments, they had hit something massive. Something that should not exist beneath millions of years of ice and rock. Call headquarters, Jake said. Tell them we found something strange. 3 hours later, a helicopter landed at their camp. Men in military uniforms jumped out, followed by scientists in thick winter coats. Jake had expected maybe 1 or 2 people from the oil company. Instead, he counted 20 people, all looking serious and worried. Mr. Morrison? A tall man with gray hair approached him. I'm General Paul Hughes. You need to show us exactly what you found. Jake led them to the drilling site. The general's team brought equipment Jake had never seen before. They lowered cameras and sensors down the hole. On the monitors, Jake saw images that made his heart race. Smooth metal surfaces, strange symbols, something that looked like a door. How big is it? The general asked one of his scientists. Sir, it's enormous. At least 300 meters long, maybe more. The drill only touched the edge. The general turned to Jake and his crew. Gentlemen, what you've discovered here is classified. You cannot speak about this to anyone. Not your families, not your friends, no one. Over the next 2 weeks, the drilling site transformed into a military base. Hundreds of people arrived. They brought massive machines that could melt through ice faster than anything Jake had seen. They worked day and night creating a tunnel down to the object. Dr. Lisa Grant arrived on day 10. She was a physicist from MIT, one of the smartest people in the country. The general had called her personally, telling her only that she needed to see something that would change history. Lisa stood at the edge of the tunnel, looking down into the blue darkness. How old is the ice layer? At least 50,000 years, replied Dr. Kevin Stone, a geologist. Maybe older. We're still running tests. They descended in a metal elevator that the military had installed. The journey took 20 minutes. As they went deeper, the temperature dropped. Lisa's breath came out in white clouds. Then she saw it. The ship was black, darker than anything she had ever seen. It seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The hull was smooth in some places, but torn and melted in others. Great gashes ran along its side as if massive claws had ripped through the metal. My God, Lisa whispered. She approached the hull and placed her gloved hand on it. The metal felt wrong somehow. Too smooth, too perfect even after all these years. Her instruments couldn't identify the material. It wasn't on the periodic table. We found an entrance, General Hughes said, or what we think is an entrance. He led her around the massive ship. Teams of soldiers and scientists worked everywhere, taking photographs, measurements, samples. The entrance was a hole blown in the side of the ship, not a door. Something had breached the hull from the outside. Lisa put on an environmental suit and entered first, followed by a security team. Inside, the ship was a maze of corridors and rooms. The walls curved in ways that hurt to look at. The ceiling was too high for humans, at least 12 feet. Everything was covered in a thin layer of frost. In what appeared to be a control room, they made the discovery that stunned everyone. Bodies. 4 of them, frozen in place at their stations. They were humanoid, but wrong. 4 arms instead of 2, heads too large, eyes too big. Their skin had turned into something like pearl, preserving them perfectly. They're not human, someone said, stating the obvious. No, Lisa agreed, but they're not that different from us either. She examined the control panels. The symbols on them seemed to move when she looked at them directly. The technology was beyond anything on Earth. Some panels still glowed faintly with power even after 50,000 years. In another room, they found weapons. Things that looked like rifles but had no visible barrels. Devices that could fit in a hand but felt heavier than they should. And in the center of the ship, they found the main weapon. It took up 3 entire decks, a massive construction of tubes and crystals and things that defied explanation. This is a warship, General Hughes said. These beings came here to fight. Or they were running from a fight, Lisa corrected. She pointed to the damage on the hull. Those marks came from weapons. Something attacked them. Something won. Jake Morrison had been allowed to stay as a guide since he knew the area better than anyone. He stood in the engine room looking at machines that shouldn't exist. "What do we do now?" General Hughes answered. "We learn. We study every inch of this ship. We figure out how it works. And if more of them come," Jake asked, "then we'll be ready." The government moved quickly. They built a permanent facility over the site. They brought in the best minds from around the world, swearing each to secrecy. The cover story was simple. They were developing new drilling technology. No one questioned it. Lisa Grant became the lead researcher. She moved to Alaska, living in the facility. Every day brought new discoveries. The ship's computers still had power, though they couldn't access them yet. The weapons were functional but needed power sources they didn't understand. The engine used principles of physics that Earth science said were impossible. 6 months into the project, they made a breakthrough. Amy Chen, a young programmer, discovered that the alien computers responded to human brainwaves. Not perfectly, but enough to begin understanding their systems. "It's like they built their technology to be universal," Amy explained. "Any intelligent species could potentially use it. With Amy's discovery, they could finally access the ship's logs." The translations were rough at first, but they learned the ship belonged to a race called the Zarathi. They had been explorers and warriors traveling between stars, and something had hunted them across the galaxy. The final log entry was short. "Earth uninhabited. Suitable for emergency landing. Devours following. If someone finds this, do not trust the dark between stars." Lisa read the translation 3 times. They knew they were going to die here. "They chose Earth as their grave, but they left us their ship," General Hughes said, "and their weapons." Jake Morrison looked at the alien technology around them. As a simple oil worker, he had started something huge. "We're going to use it, aren't we? We're going to fix this ship." "We have to," Lisa said, "because if the Zarathi were running from something, that something might still be out there." The work continued. More scientists arrived. They began to understand the weapons, the engines, the shields. They learned that human technology could interface with the alien systems. They discovered that Earth materials could replace some of the damaged components. And deep in the facility, in a room marked with the highest security clearance, they began to rebuild the gravitational pulse cannon, the weapon that could destroy mountains, the weapon that might save Earth. Jake often stood in the observation deck they had built, looking at the massive alien ship. He thought about that day when his drill hit metal. He had been looking for oil. Instead, he had found humanity's future. 5 years had passed since Jake Morrison's drill hit alien metal. The facility above the ship had grown into an underground city. 2,000 people now worked there, hidden from the world. They called it Project Phoenix, and it had become the most important secret on Earth. Dr. Carl Reeves stood in the main laboratory, watching his team work. He was a tall man with kind eyes and steady hands. Before Phoenix, he had designed weapons for the military. Now he was trying to understand weapons that could destroy planets. "The power coupling is still failing," said Danny, one of his engineers. "Every time we try to connect our fusion reactor to their systems, it overloads." Carl studied the readouts. The Zarathi technology required enormous amounts of energy, more than any human power source could provide safely. They had been trying for 2 years to solve this problem. "What if we're thinking about this wrong?" said Amy Chen. She had become the project's most valuable member. Her ability to interface with the alien computers had unlocked most of their secrets. "What if we don't need to match their power output? What if we just need to be smarter about how we use it?" She pulled up a holographic display, one of the technologies they had successfully copied from the Zarathi. "Look at this." The Zarathi used brute force. They pushed massive amounts of energy through their systems. "But we can use capacitors, store the energy, release it in pulses." Carl's eyes widened. "Like a camera flash. Build up power slowly. Release it all at once." Exactly. They spent the next month redesigning the power systems. Instead of one massive reactor, they used 12 smaller ones. Each one charged a bank of capacitors. When fired together, they could match the Zarathi's power output for short bursts. The first test was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. General Hughes came to watch, along with President Catherine Moore. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind. She had been briefed on Phoenix when she took office and had immediately understood its importance. "Dr. Reeves," she said, shaking his hand, "I'm told you're about to make history." "We're about to try, Madam President. They had set up the test in the desert far from any population. A single Zarathi weapon, what they called a pulse rifle, mounted on a human-built frame. The target was an old tank, reinforced with 2 feet of steel plating. Carl gave the signal. The weapon charged, humming with a sound that made everyone's teeth ache. Then Danny pulled the trigger. The tank didn't explode. It simply ceased to exist. Where it had been, there was now a perfectly circular hole in the ground 50 feet deep. The edges were smooth as glass. Jesus Christ, someone whispered. President Moore turned to General Hughes. How many of these weapons do we have? 47 small arms, 12 medium cannons, and the main gun. Can we make more? Carl answered. Not exact copies. We don't have their materials. But we can make our own versions. They won't be as elegant, but they'll work. The president nodded. Do it. Make as many as you can. Over the next year, Project Phoenix evolved. They stopped trying to copy Zarathi technology exactly. Instead, they combined it with human innovation. Where the aliens used exotic materials, humans used titanium and carbon fiber. Where alien computers used quantum processing, humans added parallel servers. The breakthrough with the main ship came from an unexpected source. Jake Morrison, who had stayed on as a consultant, was eating lunch in the cafeteria when he had an idea. You know what this reminds me of? He said to Lisa Grant. My dad's old truck. Thing was falling apart, but he kept it running with parts from different vehicles. Had a Ford engine, Chevy transmission, Toyota electrical system. Lisa stared at him. Jake, you're a genius. They stopped trying to repair the Zarathi ship. Instead, they rebuilt it. They kept the frame and the main systems, but replaced everything else with human technology. The control panels became touchscreens. The seats were redesigned for human bodies. The navigation system was replaced with one based on GPS technology. The hybrid ship was ugly. Zarathi elegance mixed with human functionality. But it worked. The first engine test lifted the ship 3 feet off the ground before Carl shut it down. We can fly it, he announced to the team. We can actually fly it. Training began immediately. The military selected their best pilots, but flying the Phoenix was unlike anything they had experienced. The ship didn't move like a plane or helicopter. It ignored gravity, turning in ways that should have been impossible. Captain Bruce Hammond was chosen to lead the crew. He was 45, a veteran of 3 wars, calm under pressure. His team included pilots, engineers, weapons specialists, and Amy Chen, who was the only person who could fully communicate with the ship's original systems. They practiced in simulations first. The Zarathi computers had recordings of space battles, and Amy had decoded them. They watched alien ships dance between stars, firing weapons that bent space itself. They learned tactics that no human had ever imagined, but success brought new problems. Other nations had noticed the activity in Alaska. Satellites showed the construction, the movement of materials. China and Russia demanded answers. The European Union threatened to investigate. President Moore made a decision. She invited the leaders of every major nation to a secret summit. In a bunker beneath Washington, she showed them footage of the Phoenix. We found this ship 5 years ago, she said. It's alien. It's real. And it's ours, the room erupted in shouting. Some accused America of lying. Others demanded shared access to the technology. The meeting lasted 12 hours. Finally, President Moore played the last card. She showed them the Zarathi logs translated into every language. She showed them the warnings about the Devourers. She showed them the weapons test footage. This isn't about nations anymore, she said. This is about Earth. We need to work together, or we might not survive what's coming. The agreement took another month to finalize. America would lead the project, but every nation would contribute. Scientists from around the world would join Phoenix. In return, the technology would be shared for defense only. Dr. Wang from China improved the shield systems. Dr. Petrov from Russia solved the communication array. Dr. Williams from Britain created better interfaces. The Phoenix became truly international. Carl Reeves stood in the completed ship, running his hand along a console that mixed alien crystal with human LCD screens. They had done the impossible. They had taken a dead alien warship and brought it back to life, but questions remained. Who were the Devourers? Were they still out there? And most importantly, what would happen when Earth announced itself to the universe? Amy Chen had been diving deeper into the Zarathi databases. She found star maps, histories, warnings. The universe was full of life, but not all of it was friendly. The Zerathi had been one of many races, and they had been powerful. Yet something had destroyed them. "We're not ready," she told Carl one evening. "We have one ship. The Zerathi had thousands, and they still lost." Carl nodded. "Then we better learn fast. Because ready or not, we're part of the galaxy now." The Phoenix underwent final preparations. Weapons were tested and retested. Shields were reinforced with human improvements. The gravitational pulse cannon, the ship's main weapon, was fitted with human targeting systems that increased its accuracy by 300%. Jake Morrison visited the ship one last time before it was moved to the launch facility. He stood in the entrance where he had first entered 5 years ago. So much had changed. He had been a simple oil worker. Now he was part of the most important discovery in human history. "Thank you," he said to the empty ship. He wasn't sure who he was thanking. The Zerathi maybe, or fate, or just the universe for putting him in the right place at the right time. The ship seemed to hum in response, its hybrid systems warming up for another test. It was ready. The question was whether humanity was ready for what came next. Lieutenant Commander Nathan Brooks floated in the observation deck of Mining Station 7, watching Neptune turn slowly below him. He had been stationed here for 6 months, overseeing the extraction of helium-3 from the planet's atmosphere. It was boring work, but important. Earth needed the fuel for its fusion reactors. His communication officer, Sandra Lee, suddenly straightened in her chair. "Sir, I'm reading something strange." Nathan pushed off from the window and floated over to her station. "What kind of strange?" "Gravity waves. But not natural ones. They're too regular, too organized." Before Nathan could respond, space tore open. Not exploded, not warped, but tore, like someone had taken scissors to the fabric of reality. Through the tears came ships, 17 of them, each one 5 times the size of Station 7. "Sound the alert," Nathan said, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "Get everyone to the emergency shelters." The ships were beautiful in a terrible way. They looked like massive predators, all sharp angles and weapons. They moved without engines that Nathan could see, gliding through space as if it were water. Then came the message. It played through every speaker, every screen, every communication device on the station. The voice was cold, mechanical, but spoke perfect English. "Humans of Earth, we are the Krell Dominion. Your planet has been selected for integration into our empire. You have 7 Earth days to surrender your sovereignty. If you accept, you will be treated as valued subjects allowed to serve the Dominion. If you refuse, your species will be eliminated. This is not a negotiation." The message repeated 3 times, then stopped. The Krell ships held position, surrounding Neptune like predators circling prey. Nathan's crew looked at him, fear in their eyes. "Sir, what do we do?" "We send everything we just recorded to Earth, maximum priority. Then we evacuate the station." As they prepared to leave, the Krell gave a demonstration. A beam of pure white energy shot from the lead ship. It struck Europa Mining Station, 30 million miles away. The station, home to 300 people, turned to dust in seconds. The moon itself cracked, a fissure running across its surface. "Dear God," Sandra whispered. Nathan's report reached Earth 4 hours later. President Catherine Moore was pulled from a state dinner. General Hughes was woken from sleep. Within minutes, the leadership of every major nation was on encrypted video calls. "How long until they reach Earth?" President Moore asked. "If they move at the speed we observed, 5 days," General Hughes replied. "But they seem to be waiting for our surrender." "Yes, Madam President." Catherine Moore had been president for 3 years. She had dealt with wars, disasters, economic crises, but nothing had prepared her for this. She looked at the other world leaders on her screen. The President of China, the Prime Minister of Russia, all of them waiting for her to speak. "We have the Phoenix," she said finally. 1 ship against 17. "It's suicide," the Russian Prime Minister said. "Maybe. But what choice do we have? Surrender Earth to alien slavers?" The Chinese president spoke up. "The Phoenix is our only advantage. They don't know we have it. They think we're just primitives who haven't achieved interstellar travel. Then we use that," President Moore decided. "We'll pretend to negotiate by time. Meanwhile, we prepare the Phoenix." Captain Bruce Hammond was eating breakfast when the call came. 30 minutes later, he was in the briefing room with his crew. General Hughes played them the Krell message and the footage of Europa's destruction. "We launch in 72 hours, the general said. "That gives you 3 days to finish preparations." Bruce looked at his team. 50 men and women, the best Earth had to offer. Pilots like Susan Park, who had reflexes faster than any computer. Engineers like Bobby Chen, Amy's younger brother who could fix anything with wire and tape. Weapons specialists like Greg Fox, who had spent 2 years mastering the Zarathi cannons. "Can we win?" asked Susan. Bruce was honest. "I don't know, but we're going to try." The next 3 days were chaos. The Phoenix was loaded with every weapon they could fit. Nuclear missiles modified with Zarathi shield-piercing technology, plasma cannons built from reverse-engineered alien designs, and the gravitational pulse cannon, their best hope against the Krell shields. Amy Chen worked without sleep, diving deep into the Zarathi databases. She was looking for anything about the Krell. On the second day, she found it. A brief mention in a trade log from 30,000 years ago. The Krell had been known even then, conquering and enslaving other races. "They're parasites," she explained to the crew. "They don't create. They conquer and take. Every technology they have was stolen from another race." "Then maybe they won't expect innovation," Bruce said. "They won't expect us to have improved on Zarathi technology." Dr. Lisa Grant came aboard as science advisor. She brought something special, a virus, not biological but digital, something Amy had created based on Zarathi code. "If we can get close enough to upload this to their main ship, it might disrupt their systems," Lisa explained. "Give us an advantage." On the fourth day, Earth sent its response to the Krell. President Moore herself delivered it, her face broadcast to the alien fleet. "We need more time to consider your offer. Our governments must debate. Give us 3 more days." The Krell response was swift. Another demonstration. They destroyed Titan Base, one of Saturn's research stations. 500 people turned to atoms in an instant. "You have the original 7 days. No extensions. Surrender or die." Jake Morrison had volunteered to join the Phoenix crew. He wasn't military, wasn't a scientist, but he knew the ship better than anyone except Amy. Bruce had accepted him as navigation support. "You found her," Bruce had said. "Seems right, you should be there when she flies." Now Jake stood on the bridge, watching Earth shrink below them. The Phoenix rose from the hidden launch facility in Alaska, her hybrid engines humming with power. She looked nothing like the elegant Zarathi original. Human additions made her bulky, asymmetrical, but she was armed with everything humanity could build. "Stealth systems online," reported Bobby Chen. "They shouldn't detect us until we want them to." The journey to Neptune took 12 hours. The Phoenix moved faster than anything humans had built before, but she was still limited by physics humanity was only beginning to understand. They passed Mars, then Jupiter, each planet a milestone toward the battle that would decide Earth's fate. When they were an hour from Neptune, Bruce gathered his crew. "I won't lie to you. The odds are against us. 17 ships to our 1. But we have advantages. We have surprise. We have human creativity mixed with alien technology. And we have something to fight for. Our families. Our world. Our freedom. Also," Greg Fox added with a grim smile, "we have really big guns." The crew laughed, breaking the tension. They took their positions. Weapons charged, shields raised. The gravitational pulse cannon began its charging sequence, a deep throb that seemed to shake reality itself. "Remember," Bruce said, "we hit them hard and fast. No mercy. These things destroyed 2 stations full of innocent people just to make a point." As Neptune came into view, so did the Krell fleet. 17 metal predators hanging in space, confident in their superiority. They had conquered 100 worlds. What was one more primitive planet? They were about to learn that humanity was anything but primitive. "Distance to target 1 million kilometers," Jake reported. "Hold steady," Bruce ordered. "Wait for them to see us." The Phoenix dropped her stealth systems. Immediately, Krell sensors locked onto them. The alien fleet began to move, turning their weapons toward the single human ship. A communication came through. The same cold voice from before, but now with a tone of amusement. "One ship? Is this Earth's idea of resistance?" Bruce opened a channel. "This is Captain Bruce Hammond of Earth Vessel Phoenix. You have attacked our people and threatened our world. We're here to give you one chance. Leave now and never return." The Krell commander's laughter was like breaking glass. "One ship against the Dominion fleet? You humans are either brave or stupid." "Probably both," Bruce admitted. "But we're also really pissed off." He cut the channel and turned to his crew. "All weapons prepare to fire. Let's show them what humans can do." The gravitational pulse cannon fired first. The weapon that had taken 5 years to understand and improve released its power in a beam of twisted space. It moved at the speed of light, invisible until it hit. The Krell flagship's shields flared bright blue, then shattered like glass. The beam continued through, cutting the massive ship in half. For 3 seconds there was silence on all channels. The Krell fleet hung motionless in space, unable to process what had happened. Their flagship, a vessel that had conquered dozens of worlds, was now 2 pieces of debris spinning toward Neptune. Then chaos erupted. Evasive maneuvers. Bruce shouted, "Now!" Susan Park's hands flew over the controls. The Phoenix rolled left just as 17 energy beams passed through the space where they had been. The beams were so powerful they left trails of ionized particles, making space itself glow. Returning fire, Greg Fox announced. The human-modified plasma cannons opened up, sending bolts of superheated matter toward the Krell fleet. The alien ships raised their shields, confident in their defense. But the plasma bolts were mixed with Zarathi shield-piercing technology. 3 Krell ships took direct hits, their shields flickering and failing. Their shields can't adapt fast enough, Amy Chen reported from her station. The Zarathi technology is 30,000 years old to them. They've forgotten how to defend against it. The Phoenix danced between enemy fire. Susan Park pushed the ship to its limits, making turns that should have torn the hull apart. But the hybrid human Zarathi inertial dampeners held, protecting the crew from forces that would have liquidated them. Nuclear missiles away, someone called out. 12 missiles, each one modified with alien technology, streaked toward the Krell formation. The aliens shot down 8 of them, but 4 got through. The explosions were beautiful and terrible, miniature suns blooming in the darkness. Another Krell ship died, its hull cracking open like an egg. Atmosphere and body spilled into space. "That's 3 down," Jake Morrison reported. 14 to go, but the Krell were adapting. They spread their formation, making it harder to target multiple ships. They began firing in patterns, creating nets of energy the Phoenix couldn't dodge completely. The first hit came 5 minutes into the battle. The beam struck their starboard shield and the entire ship shook. Warning lights flashed red across the bridge. "Shield down to 60%, Bobby Chen reported. "Rerouting power from non-essential systems." "Keep us moving," Bruce ordered. He turned to Amy. "Can you upload the virus?" "I need to be within 10,000 kilometers of their command ship." "We're still too far." Bruce made a decision that would have seemed insane to any traditional military commander. "Susan, take us straight at them." "Sir?" "They expect us to keep our distance, to use our range advantage, so we do the opposite. Take us into knife-fighting range." The Phoenix accelerated toward the Krell fleet. Energy beams filled space around them, but Susan flew like she was born for this. She rolled, pitched, and yawed, never staying on the same vector for more than 2 seconds. "Gravitational cannon recharged," Greg announced. "Target their command ship, the one with the gold markings." The second shot from the main gun was as devastating as the first, but this time the Krell were ready. 3 ships moved to protect their commander, taking the hit themselves. 1 ship vaporized instantly. Another lost half its mass. The third survived but was crippled, spinning out of control. 6 down, Jake counted. But the Phoenix paid for its aggressive attack. Multiple beams hit their shields simultaneously. The ship lurched hard to port. In the engineering section, power conduits exploded. 2 crew members were killed instantly. "Shields at 20%. Bobby Chen shouted over the alarms. "We can't take many more hits." The Krell pressed their advantage. They formed a sphere around the Phoenix, cutting off escape routes. Energy beams came from all directions. "Ideas would be good right now," Bruce said. Lisa Grant had been quiet during the battle, studying the sensor readings. Now she spoke up. "Captain, the Krell ships are using quantum entanglement for communication. If Amy uploads the virus to one ship, it should spread to all of them." "Amy, I can do it, but I need 30 seconds of stable connection." 30 seconds in this battle might as well have been 30 years. But Bruce had an idea. "Greg, remember that thing we tested in simulation? The one that made General Hughes throw up?" Greg grinned. "The spiral dive? That's insane." "Yes, it is. Do it." Susan Park heard the order and her hands were already moving. The Phoenix pointed her nose straight down, relative to the solar system's plane, and accelerated to maximum speed. Then she began to spin, creating a corkscrew motion through space. The maneuver was so unexpected, so impossible for any sane pilot to attempt, that the Krell hesitated. Their targeting computers couldn't calculate the constantly changing vector. Their beams missed by meters instead of kilometers. Now, Amy. Amy's fingers flew across her interface, speaking to the Phoenix's Zerathi systems in a language that was part mathematics, part instinct. She found a Krell communication node and forced her way in. The virus, 20 terabytes of corrupted Zerathi code, flooded into the alien network. Uploaded. Get us out of here! Susan pulled out of the spiral dive just as the Phoenix's hull began to groan from the stress. They shot past 2 Krell ships so close that Jake could see the individual weapon ports. For 10 seconds, nothing happened. Then the Krell ships began to act strangely. Some stopped firing. Others began to drift. One ship actually fired on another Krell vessel. It's working, Amy said. The virus is confusing their systems. They can't tell friend from foe. The Phoenix took advantage of the chaos. Plasma cannons and missiles found their targets. 2 more Krell ships died in nuclear fire. Another collided with its neighbor, both ships crumpling like aluminum cans. But the Krell were not stupid. Their commander recognized what was happening and made a brutal decision. He ordered all infected ships to self-destruct rather than risk the virus spreading further. 4 Krell ships exploded simultaneously, taking their crews with them. It was a cold, calculated move that saved the remaining ships but cost thousands of lives. 5 Krell ships remaining, Jake reported, including their command vessel. The odds were better now, but the Phoenix was badly damaged. Half their weapons were offline. Shields were barely functioning. The crew had lost 7 members, including one of their best engineers. Gravitational cannon status? Bruce asked. 1 more shot, maybe 2, Greg replied. The power couplings are failing. The 5 remaining Krell ships regrouped. They had learned respect for the human vessel. No more arrogant attacks. They formed a tactical formation, covering each other's weaknesses. The Krell commander's voice came through the communication system. Impressive, humans. You have destroyed 2/3 of my fleet with 1 ship, but you are damaged, nearly destroyed. Surrender now and I will grant your crew quick deaths. Bruce looked at his crew. They were exhausted, some wounded, all pushed beyond their limits, but not one of them showed any sign of giving up. Counteroffer, Bruce replied. You leave now with your remaining ships and we won't hunt you down and finish you off. You barely have power for engines, let alone weapons. Want to bet your life on that? There was silence. Then the Krell commander laughed again. You humans are indeed brave, very well. Let us finish this. The final phase of the battle began. Both sides were wounded, exhausted, but determined. The Krell ships advanced in formation, concentrating their fire. The Phoenix dodged what she could, but more beams found their mark. Systems failed across the ship. Life support began to fluctuate. 1 shot left on the main gun, Greg reported. Make it count, Bruce said. They waited. Let the Krell come closer. Let them think they had won. When the command ship was only 50,000 kilometers away, Bruce gave the order. The gravitational pulse cannon fired its last shot. But this time, Greg didn't aim for the command ship. He aimed for the space between 2 escort vessels. The beam's gravitational wake pulled both ships together, crushing them into a single mass of twisted metal. 3 ships left, but the Phoenix had nothing left to give. Main weapons were dead, shields were gone. Half the crew was dealing with hull breaches and fires. Sir? Susan Park said quietly. I can ram them. No. Bruce stood up from his command chair. We're not done yet. Bobby, can you overload the fusion reactors? Bobby Chen understood immediately. Turn the whole ship into a bomb? Yeah, I can do that. Give me 2 minutes. Do it. Bruce opened a channel to the Krell. Commander, I'm going to make you a deal. You can destroy us, but I've set our reactors to overload. When we die, the explosion will be significant. Your 3 ships are close enough that at least 1, maybe 2, will be caught in the blast. Or you can leave now, report that Earth is more trouble than it's worth. You're bluffing. Amy sent a data packet to the Krell ships. It was the reactor readings showing the building overload. Check your sensors. There was a long pause. The Krell ships held position, weapons locked but not firing. Bruce held his breath. His entire crew was silent, waiting. Finally, the Krell commander spoke. You would die to protect your world? Every human on this ship would. And there are 8 billion more where we came from. You might beat us today, but more ships will come. More humans with more weapons. We'll reverse engineer your technology. 6 months after the Battle of Neptune, Earth was a changed world. The Phoenix limped home to a hero's welcome, but there was no time for long celebrations. The Krell threat had shown humanity a truth they could no longer ignore. The universe was dangerous and Earth needed to be ready. Dr. Carl Reeves stood in the new facility, 10 times larger than the original Phoenix base. They called it Forge Station, and it was building warships, not one but 12. Each ship was based on the Phoenix design, but improved with lessons learned from the battle. The new shields are 40% stronger, reported Maria Santos, the lead engineer on the project. We figured out how to layer them. When one fails, another takes its place immediately. Carl nodded, watching welders work on the hull of Earth's newest defender, the Endeavor. These ships were purely human designs, incorporating everything they had learned from the Zarathi and the Krell. They were not as elegant as alien vessels, but they were tough, practical, and deadly. President Catherine Moore arrived for the launch ceremony of the first 3 ships. She had aged visibly in the past months, the weight of protecting Earth heavy on her shoulders, but her eyes were still sharp, still determined. "Captain Hammond," she said, shaking Bruce's hand. He had been promoted to admiral and put in charge of Earth's new defense fleet. "Are we ready?" "As ready as we can be, Madam President. The Endeavor, Defiance, and Victory are fully operational. Their crews are trained. We've even improved the gravitational pulse cannon. It can fire 3 times before needing to recharge now." Amy Chen had become Earth's foremost expert on alien technology. She stood beside Bruce, holding a tablet with readouts from the new ships. "We've also decoded more of the Zarathi database. We found something important." She led them to a secure briefing room where the world's leaders were gathering by video link. On the screen, she displayed a star map, marked with hundreds of points. "These are other civilizations the Zarathi knew about. Some are peaceful traders, others are conquerors like the Krell. And then there's this." She highlighted a dark region of the map empty of stars. "The Devourers. The thing the Zarathi were running from." "What are they?" asked the Chinese president. "We don't know exactly. The Zarathi records are fragmented, but they consume entire solar systems. They leave nothing behind, not even dust." The room was silent. After facing the Krell, they thought they understood the dangers of space. But this was something else entirely. "How long before they find us?" President Moore asked. "Could be tomorrow. Could be 1,000 years. The galaxy is vast, but we need to be ready." The decision was unanimous. Earth would not wait for the next threat to arrive. They would go out, explore, make allies, and grow stronger. The Phoenix had shown them the way. Now humanity would walk that path. Jake Morrison had returned to Alaska, but not to drill for oil. He was now director of the Zarathi Archaeological Division. Teams of scientists worked to extract every piece of technology from the original ship, every scrap of knowledge. "We found something new," his assistant Kyle reported one morning. "A chamber we missed before. It was sealed differently from the others." Jake followed him deep into the ship. The chamber was small, barely large enough for 3 people. Inside was a single console and what looked like a chair made of crystal. "What is it?" Amy Chen arrived an hour later. She connected to the console, her mind interfacing with the alien computer. Suddenly she gasped and pulled back. "It's a teaching device," she said, eyes wide. "The Zarathi used it to share knowledge directly, mind to mind. It contains their entire scientific database, everything they knew about physics, engineering, biology." Jake looked at the crystal chair. "Can we use it?" "Maybe, but it was designed for Zarathi brains. We'd need to modify it, make it safe for humans." It took 3 months of careful work, but they succeeded. The first human to use the device was Dr. Lisa Grant. She sat in the modified chair, electrodes attached to her head, as Amy activated the system. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. Then Lisa's eyes opened wide, tears streaming down her face. "I can see it," she whispered. "I can see how the universe works." The knowledge gained from the teaching device accelerated Earth's development by decades. Humans learned to manipulate gravity, to bend space, to harness energy from quantum fluctuations. They learned about other dimensions, other physics, other possibilities. Within a year, Earth had a fleet of 30 ships. Each one was unique, as human engineers experimented with different designs and weapons. The Thunderbolt used lightning-based weapons that could chain between enemy ships. The Fortress had shields so strong it could fly through a sun. The Ghost could become nearly invisible, perfect for reconnaissance. But ships were not enough. Earth needed allies. Ambassador George Miller, a former UN negotiator, volunteered to lead humanity's first diplomatic mission. He took the Phoenix, repaired and upgraded, to visit the peaceful races Amy had identified in the Zarathi database. The first contact was with the Androsi, a race of traders who looked like giant butterflies. They were suspicious at first. Humans were unknown, and their ship was clearly built for war. But George was patient, showing them Earth art, music, and culture. He traded human medical knowledge for star charts. He shared recipes for chocolate, which the Androsi found addictive. "You humans are strange," the Androsi ambassador said through their translator. "You build weapons of war but speak of peace. You are young but show wisdom. You are individuals but work as one." "We're complicated," George agreed, "but we're good friends to have." The Androsi agreed to a trade alliance. They would share their knowledge of hyperdrive technology, allowing Earth ships to travel faster. In return, humans would provide protection from raiders who had been plaguing Androsi trade routes. The second contact was less peaceful. The Vron Empire, militaristic reptilians, saw humans as potential slaves. They sent a fleet to Earth, 25 ships strong. They never made it past Mars. Admiral Bruce Hammond's fleet intercepted them in the asteroid belt. The battle lasted 2 hours. Earth lost 2 ships, Courage and Thunder. The Vron lost everything. Their technology was advanced but rigid. They fought in formations that hadn't changed in centuries. Human chaos and creativity overwhelmed them. "This is impossible," the Vron commander said as his ship broke apart. "We have conquered 50 worlds." "You never conquered humans," Bruce replied. Word spread through the galaxy faster than light. The humans of Earth, who had only recently discovered interstellar travel, had defeated both the Krell and the Vron. Some races sent diplomats, wanting to be friends with these dangerous newcomers. Others prepared for war, seeing humans as a threat. President Moore, now in her final year of office, addressed the United Nations for the last time. Behind her was a window showing the night sky, now filled with human ships patrolling Earth orbit. "5 years ago, we were alone," she said. "We thought we were unique in the universe. Then Jake Morrison's drill hit alien metal and everything changed. We found we were not alone. We found the universe was dangerous, but we also found that humanity's greatest strength is our ability to adapt and overcome." She paused, looking at the assembled leaders. "Today we have 32 ships. Tomorrow we'll have 50. We have alliances with 3 alien races. We have technology our grandparents couldn't have imagined. But more importantly, we have unity. For the first time in history, humanity stands as one." The new president, Robert Chen, Amy's father, continued the expansion. Shipyards were built on the Moon and Mars. Mining operations in the asteroid belt provided materials. The teaching device was used to train a new generation of scientists and engineers. Jake Morrison, now 60 years old, often visited the memorial built where the Zarathi ship had been found. The ship itself had been moved to a museum on the Moon, but a monument stood in its place. It was a simple obelisk with words in both human and Zarathi script. Here began humanity's journey to the stars. Amy Chen had decoded a final message from the Zarathi, hidden deep in their computer core. It was addressed to whoever found their ship. "We failed. The Devourers destroyed our worlds, our people, our hope. But in our failure we leave this gift. Our knowledge, our weapons, our warning. Use them better than we did. Stand where we fell. Fight where we fled. The universe is dark and full of terrors, but it also contains wonders beyond imagination. Do not repeat our mistakes. Do not stand alone. Unite, grow strong, and perhaps you will succeed where we failed." Humanity had taken those words to heart. They built not just a fleet but a coalition. The Free Worlds Alliance now contained 12 species, all committed to mutual defense. When the Devourers came, if they came, they would not face a single race but a united front. The Phoenix still flew, now as a training ship for new pilots. Susan Park, promoted to captain, commanded her. She taught young pilots not just how to fly, but how to think, how to be creative, how to be human in the vast emptiness of space. On the anniversary of the Battle of Neptune, Earth celebrated Victory Day. Fireworks lit the sky. Children played with toy versions of the Phoenix. In schools, they learned about Jake Morrison's discovery, Amy Chen's brilliant mind, Bruce Hammond's courage, and the 50 heroes who had risked everything to save Earth. But in the military centers, in the research labs, in the shipyards,